Punctuality is often the first casualty of chaos, and for Tony Berretti, a man whose career was built on the bedrock of precision, the morning had devolved into a masterclass in disorder. He wasn't just late. He was sprinting through the ornate Kaler wing of the Europa Station Embassy, battling a deadline that felt less like a clock and more like a guillotine. In stories like this, where worlds collide, the architecture often serves as a silent witness to human folly. The Kaler section was a masterpiece of alien serenity, soaring ceilings painted to mimic auroras, water features whispering tranquility, all of which blurred into a smear of color as Tony rounded a corner with reckless velocity. Physics, unfortunately, is universal. His shoulder slammed into something solid yet surprisingly slight. Momentum did the rest. There was a gasp, a stumble, and then a splash that shattered the corridor's peace like a gunshot. Tony, horrified, dropped to his knees at the edge of the ornamental pool. His hands plunged into the water, finding fabric, and he hauled the victim upward with desperate strength. The figure that broke the surface was not human. She was blue, the soft, luminous shade of Earth's tropical oceans at twilight, and strikingly small. Water cascaded from her dark, short-cropped hair, plastering gray ceremonial robes to a frame that looked dangerously delicate. But it was her eyes, vast, midnight pools of unreadable intelligence, that froze the breath in Tony's throat. Riina, the daughter of Ambassador Kavas, stood thigh-deep in the water, staring at him not with anger but with an unnerving, predatory curiosity. "Your eyes are all over me, human," she observed, her voice carrying a melodic edge. She stepped from the pool, the water rendering her robes translucent, a detail that sent heat flooding into Tony's face. "I'm sorry," he stammered, averting his gaze. "It was an accident." "Stop staring," she commanded, stepping into his personal space until the scent of alien flora filled his senses. Then she did the unthinkable. She pointed to her wet chest. "Touch it. See if we are so different, or are you all just cowards?" The air in the corridor thickened, heavy with a tension that transcended species. It is a strange quirk of fate that the most pivotal moments of our lives often begin with a challenge we don't understand. Tony hesitated, his training at war with the surreal reality before him. "Ma'am, I don't touch without permission." Riina's eyes narrowed, a flicker of amusement dancing in the dark. "You knocked me into a pool, you stared, and now you hesitate." Before the moment could spiral further, reality intruded. Guards appeared, stiffening at the sight of the drenched diplomat and the flustered human. Panic flared in Tony's chest. This was a diplomatic incident of career-ending proportions. But Riina, with a dismissive wave to the guards, ordered Tony to follow her. Safeguarded within her private chambers, a space that felt like a bioluminescent dollhouse, Riina revealed the depth of the precipice Tony had stumbled onto. "My father knows of the incident," she said, changing behind a screen. "If I told the truth that it was an accident, the council would see it as weakness. You would be punished. Severely." "So you lied?" Tony asked, bewildered. "I offered clarity," she corrected, emerging in dry, regal blue robes. "I told them you initiated the challenge of contact, a warrior's ritual. You challenged me with your gaze and physical force, and I demanded proof of intent." Tony stared, the realization settling like lead. She had fabricated a ritual challenge to save him from a prison cell, effectively rewriting his clumsiness as boldness. But in the theater of galactic politics, every lie demands a performance. The bill came due in the Hall of Accord. Standing before Ambassador Kavas and the ancient council, Tony felt the crushing weight of alien judgment. The ambassador, a towering figure of cold authority, made the terms clear. To honor the challenge Riina had invented, Tony had to complete the first trial, the trial of presence. "You will remain at her side for a full solar cycle," the elder decreed. 26 hours, no hesitation, no distance. You will be her ceremonial guardian. It sounded like a glorified shift, but Riina's warning cut through his bravado. This wasn't just guard duty, it was a test of absolute intimacy. To fail meant Riina would be branded as one who associated with the weak, her reputation incinerated. To succeed, well, the implications of success remained dangerously vague. They were bound by ceremonial tethers, silver wristbands that pulsed with pale light, monitoring their proximity. If they drifted more than 3 arm lengths apart, the trial failed. The hours that followed were a grueling marathon of public scrutiny. Tony shadowed Riina through diplomatic breakfasts and protocol reviews, moving in a synchronized dance he had to learn on the fly. He became her shadow, acutely aware of the whispers, the stares, and the constant, electric hum of the tether binding them. The true test of resolve, however, came in the training hall. There, they encountered Aunt Sarai, a scarred warrior woman who looked at Tony as if he were a dull blade. "Do you comprehend the insult inherent in your presence?" Sarai demanded, circling them. She laid the stakes bare. If Tony faltered, Riina would become unmarriageable, a pariah in her own culture. The lie Riina told to protect him had mortgaged her entire future. "I do not fail," Tony told the warrior, a spark of defiance igniting. Riina stepped between them, a small but fierce shield. "He honors the trial." It was only later, as the station's artificial sun dipped, that Riina revealed the final, most terrifying leg of the journey. The evening required seclusion. 6 hours, locked in the sanctum, a meditation chamber where no witnesses existed and the only structure was their own will. "This is where warriors break," Riina whispered as the heavy stone door sealed them inside, the lock engaging with a resonant thud. "The sanctum forces us to see the person beneath. And connection, Tony, is terrifying." In the silence of the sanctum, stripped of titles and protocols, the walls came down. They sat on cushions, knees almost touching, the tether pulsing softly between them. Tony finally asked the question that had been haunting him. "Why did you protect me?" "Because when you pulled me from the water," Riina confessed, her voice soft, "you cared about my safety, not your reputation. That is rare." The intimacy of the moment was suffocating, yet intoxicating. They spoke of the future, and Riina admitted the terrifying truth of the challenge. Success didn't mean they parted ways. It meant the bond evolved. It meant their temporary fiction became a permanent reality, a recognized partnership. "I am afraid," Riina admitted, tears shimmering in her large, dark eyes. "I am afraid you will handle this responsibility perfectly, and I will have no choice but to love you. That is a risk I never intended to take." Tony reached out, covering her small hand with his. The vibration of his own racing heart traveled through his fingertips. "Life is risk, Riina. This connection, it's real. My heart hasn't stopped racing since you came out of that pool." There are moments in every life where the script is discarded and pure instinct takes the stage. "Then we finish the trial," Tony said. "We prove we can exist together." Riina knelt before him, the distance closing to nothing. "If we do this, there is no going back." "Then I will spend my life learning to be worthy," he replied. Her lips met his, soft and tasting of alien flowers, a seal on a pact that transcended species. In that sealed room, amidst the quiet hum of the station, a security guard and a diplomat's daughter rewrote the laws of their worlds. When the heavy doors unsealed at dawn, they didn't just walk out, they emerged. The council awaited, their faces masks of judgment. The elder's eyes dropped immediately to where Riina's small blue hand was firmly clasped in Tony's grasp. The tether was silent, but the connection was screaming. "The trial of presence is complete," the elder announced, his voice echoing through the hall. "Security Specialist Beretti has demonstrated unwavering commitment." He paused, his gaze lingering on their joined hands, a defiance of protocol, yet a fulfillment of the deepest law. "However," the elder continued, a note of resignation, or perhaps respect, coloring his tone, "it appears the challenge has evolved beyond our expectations." Riina lifted her chin, meeting her father's gaze with the fierce pride of a woman who had gambled everything and won. "It has, honored elder," she declared, her grip on Tony tightening. "We wish to acknowledge the bond and proceed according to tradition." And in the silence that followed, Tony realized that the longest 3 minutes of his life had merely been the prologue to a lifetime.